welcome back to my channel. So, you guys have asked me to do a book review on Before by Anna Todd. Guys, I read this book like over a month ago, and I'm just now filming a video to this. Like, I actually filmed a video, but I lost the file, and it was supposed to be uploaded last week, but can't find it on my SD card, so I guess I have to film it all over again. But anyways, I didn't want to review this book. I didn't even want to read the book because I felt like we already know what happened, so it's no point of hearing the same thing all over again. And that is exactly what Before is. It's another one of those books about Tessa and Hardin, Hessa, and their freaking relationship. This book was so pointless. It was not even needed. It was just like, to me, I feel like Anna was like, let's see if we could get one more book out of this after series. And people saw this book and they were like, Like, even people who are huge fans of the entire series, they were irritated by this book because it was literally just summarizing book 1 through 4. It didn't even talk about, like, Tessa and Hardin before they met. Like, it kind of did for a second because this whole book is literally in Hardin's perspective. So when it first started off, it started off in Hardin's perspective, and he talked about his life before he moved to the States. So he talked about his life in London, how he was bored with his life, and him and his friends always did the same thing every week, every day, party and drink, and that was it. He talked about, like, how he would have sex with a whole bunch of girls, but never committed to them, never dated. He has a hard time getting attached to women. Women would try to, like, get inside his heart and get to know him, but he always pushed that off because he didn't want that. And he also talked about his mom and the whole incident when his dad got drunk and those guys came into the house and they were all over his mother and everything, and he just stood there and watched, and he felt like he couldn't do anything to help his mother. So he talks about how he keep having those nightmares repeatedly, and then it talks a little bit about the whole Natalie situation. And after that took place, that's when his mom was like, okay, you need a change of scenery. You are going to the States and you're going to live with your father. So that was like the start of the book. So then it goes into talking about Natalie. Okay, so now we're in Natalie's point of view. And I'm just like, when we got to this, I was just like, why are we talking about Natalie? Like, I honestly don't really remember what happened with Natalie's scene. All I remember was something about church and a little boy. That is it, because it was so pointless. Like, why are we introducing her character when she had no purpose throughout the entire series? We only heard from her for like literally 2 minutes in one of the books. And that was it. Like, why are we talking about her? Why are we getting a whole character breakdown about her? Makes no sense to me. It was annoying. Then after her, we get Molly's point of view, and I'm like, why are we getting Molly's point of view? Like, it makes no sense. Like, you're introducing new characters and you're giving these people point of views for no apparent reason. Like, I was irritated. Like, why? But this is the thing that pissed me off about the whole Molly's point of view. So we know throughout the entire after series how much Tessa was slut shaming Molly. Like, instantly when she first saw Molly, she instantly thought she was a slut. She kept judging her based on her outfits and like, oh, she's a whore and she fucks anybody and this, that, and the other. Well, in Molly's point of view, she basically confirms that Tessa was right. That she's a slut and that she just fucks any guy she sees. And I'm just like, why does Tessa have to be right? Like, I wanted Molly's character to not be out there so much. Like, yeah, it's fine. She could have sex with people, but it was just like, why does it have to be she had many, like, men that she slept with? She finds validation in men, and that's what she says in her own words. She finds attention through them because she never had a mother figure. She has a mother, but her mother is not like an active person in her life. Her mother is always out doing her own stuff. And so she's pretty much on her own. And she finds these men and she gets her attention through these men. And it was like a whole scene in there where it was like she just randomly had sex with some guy she didn't even know. And then her aunt happens to come by and like Molly is just fixing her dress. And I'm just like, it was clear that her aunt knew what was up. Her aunt asked her when she got in the car, so what are your plans for your future? Like, why? Why did they do that to her? And you guys could probably be like, well, that's her character. They wrote her like that for a reason. And whether, you know, like Tessa told us or we knew her story, Molly's story, like her character was written to be a slut. So that's what it is. It's not necessarily such like people literally try to make excuses to justify the slut shaming. Like, no, honey. It's people are like, because they like the series because it's just a book and it's not real life. And I get that. It's not real life. But it's just the simple fact that we have kids reading this stuff and they're going to think, okay, it's okay because, you know, he's doing this because he loves me. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is love and this is that. And, you know, this is, I don't know. It's just like everything is, it's like they're trying to find stuff to validate everything that's wrong with this book or these series. Like, come on now. So anyways, after we get done with hers, we hear about some girl. I think her name was Courtney and it was Dan's sister. So I'm like, we don't even know anything about Dan's sister. Why are we talking about her? So now we hear her side of the story and it's nothing about like what Hardin did to her. It was just about her brother had came and picked her up for a party. And when she got in the car, what's his name? Hardin. I forgot his name. I was about to say Logan. Hardin was in the car and she was fascinated by him. And she noticed his accent. She wanted to ask him about it, but chose not to. And then she also knew that her brother and Hardin had beef, but she never knew why. So this was like literally the moment she met Hardin for the first time. And then it ends right there, right? Now we go into Stephanie's point of view, right? So Stephanie, hers was also pointless. It was something about an incident that happened to her when she was in high school getting ready to graduate and she was getting ready to go to prom, right? So basically, she was at home and she was getting ready to go to get her prom dress. And her dad tells her, take her sister home. And so she's like, Dad, like, I have to go get my dress. I only have 30 minutes. He was like, okay, well, take your sister home on the way. And so her sister was like, I'll be right back. I have to pee. So Steph goes get in the car. 12 minutes go by. Now it's officially 20 minutes that passed. And now she only has 10 minutes to get there to get her dress. Finally, her sister comes out with the baby. And then they make their way to the store. Well, guess what? As soon as she gets to the store, it's closed, which meant she couldn't get the dress that she wanted. And this was her last day to get the dress because she also asked for extension a couple times prior. So she's pissed off. So she drops her sister off at home and she goes inside like her sister's house and she starts pushing all up on her sister's husband. And her sister kicks her out. So the whole deal with that is Steph is pretty much that girl who lives in her sister's shadows. Her sister has always been Little Miss Perfect. She went to college. She got her degree. She got a baby. And she married her high school sweetheart. And everything about her life was perfect. And she always got her sisters like hand-me-downs. Steph always got her sisters hand-me-downs and stuff like that. The family didn't really care about her. It was always her sister and nothing in regards to her. Finally, we get into the actual story, right? So one thing that kind of bugged me a lot about this is, okay, when we first originally started, when I was talking about like Hardin was talking about his past, it has started with him kept saying the boy's mom, the boy's father, you know, it wasn't I or my or whatever. And I guess because he's supposed to be telling the story, but it was still kind of annoying because it's like, if you're telling your story, how about you say my, like those words instead of the boy, unless you are giving that person a character. But maybe it's supposed to represent, the boy is supposed to represent who he used to be, like the past. I don't know, but I'm making assumptions here. Now that we got into the story, he finally starts to acknowledge himself as my or I, you know, and not the boy. It did a few times throughout the chapters, but so apparently when Hardin first met Tessa, he was into her. He was, even though he wasn't paying her no attention, he was definitely into her, and like he was just trying to play it off. He found amusement by irritating her. So he was doing things on purpose to piss her off because that's how he got his excitement. Sometimes, like if Tessa wasn't there, where is she? Like, I need to annoy her today. Like that was him. And that was his way of showing that he liked her. They were trying to make it like, oh, it's a love at first sight type of thing. But, and so even though like, if she wasn't around, he found himself thinking about her, like why is she dressed like that or whatever. Like she was literally always on his mind. Let's talk about like the whole like bet thing. So the bet actually came into play before the party. So Molly and the whole crew, everybody except Steph was there, and Molly brought up the simple fact that Tessa was a virgin. So everybody's like, how is she a virgin? She got a boyfriend. And she was like, Steph said she's a virgin. And she was like, you know, that's weird. Who's a virgin in college? Like, ha, ha, ha. And I was just like getting irritated because it's like, what's wrong with being a virgin in college? Like, why do you care? I don't know. It was so annoying. I hate when movies do that, or television shows where it's like, oh, you're a freshman in high school or you're a freshman in college and you're a virgin. Ew. Everybody, Anna's a virgin. That's when Zed was like, hey, I guess I could change that. And so Hardin was like, okay, you want to make a bet? And so they made a bet to find out who was going to take Tessa's virginity first. Was it going to be Hardin or was it going to be Zed? So that was the original bet. Now, the thing was, they needed to figure out and confirm whether or not she was a virgin. So they decided, hey, let's play Truth or Dare. Someone was like, Truth or Dare? That's for like 5-year-olds. And they were like, oh, well, I don't see nobody else throwing no ideas. So that's how they came up with the game of Truth or Dare and how this bet was going to take place. So they were like, we need to make sure that Steffi brings Tessa to the party tomorrow. So there we could get our confirmation. So when Tessa was asked, was she a virgin? And she said yes, they got the confirmation. It was like, bet's on. So that's how it all started off. So Molly knew that Hardin had feelings for Tessa because it was clearly obvious. And one of the moments she said something was when her and Hardin was having sex. So Hardin called Molly Tessa. And she's like, Tessa? Like, and he was like, trying to play it off like he don't know what he was doing. Like, boy, bye. Boy, bye. He's like, no, I don't like her, whatever. But she was like, Hardin, I know. It's obvious that you like her. And so, pretty much, the game continues on. And Zed thinks he has a shot. But at the same time, he wants to, like, call the bet off because he don't think this is a good idea. But Hardin wants to keep the bet going. So when Hardin actually takes Tessa to the creek, he had the perfect opportunity to take her virginity. Tessa was ready to have sex. He wanted to have sex. But he realized that if he went ahead and had sex with Tessa right then and there, that the bet would be over. And he didn't want it to end so quickly. And he already knew he was going to win because he'd done this before prior. So he wasn't worried. but he just didn't want it to end so quickly. So that's why he told Tessa, nah, we got plenty of time for that. So after this, it continues to go on. We find out that Stephanie is actually a fake ass bitch. She doesn't like Tessa. She can't stand Tessa. So how this came into play and how we have found out about this was when Tessa ended up going missing, okay? So it was a night where they went to a party and Tessa got real tired. And so she went into one of the rooms and there was a guy that was in the room. And she locked the door and got into the other bed. When she opened her eyes, there was a guy that was over her and he was trying to, take advantage of her. But Tessa jumped up and ran out and she went to Hardin's room. And Hardin was like her protector. And so they ended up falling asleep, and when Hardin woke up, he noticed that Tessa was gone. So he went out to look for Tessa, and he drove around for 2 hours trying to find her. Finally, he's like, let me go to her dorm room. So he goes to the dorm room. He sees Steph and Tristan, and he's like, where's Tessa? And she's just like walking. It's like, and you didn't stop and get her? And she was like, I'm not her babysitter. And he's like, you always bring her around though. And I'm like, exactly, you always bring her around though. And so she was like, I'm just tired of babysitting her. And who knows, and she could use the walk anyways. And so Hardin kicks them out the room and Tessa finally comes home. So he's like, Tessa, where are you? And that's when his mom and stuff had came. So then again we hear about Steph. And she admits that she doesn't like Tessa because Tessa is like little Miss Goody Two Shoes or whatever. And she just never liked her. She just doesn't. And she would tell Hardin she doesn't even like you. Like she's going to, this is just a bet. This is a game for you. She wants someone like Noah. And that's who she belongs with. Like you have no chance. Like it was like it was like Steph is just on a mission to try to destroy Tessa and Hardin's relationship or whatever they had going from get-go. And it was just like, wow. Like, Steph, you that fake? She really thought you were her friend and you were saying all this bad stuff about her. Like, come on, girl. So anyways, then in this whole, series, it didn't talk about how the bet ended or anything, but it did talk about a lot of the sex stuff. And what they tried to do with this book is they tried to eliminate and take out all the toxic stuff that was in book 1 through 4. They didn't even put it in there at all. So it made it seem like their relationship was okay. I guess because it's Hardin's point of view that he didn't realize it was that bad. But definitely in Tessa's version, it was more toxic. And you could feel and see how toxic their relationship was. In this book, it didn't talk about them constantly breaking up every 2 seconds and having sex. It didn't. It didn't talk about them going to Seattle. It didn't talk about the almost rape incident. It didn't talk about none of that stuff. It talked about the bet ended. He knows that Zed had some feelings for Tessa, but that was it. It just summarized that they got married, they had children, and that was pretty much it. And then we go back into this freaking character breakdown again. So I didn't read all the character breakdowns this time. I read Landon's and I read Zed's, but I didn't continue on. I know the next person after Zed was Christian, but I didn't care to read it, so I stopped. But Landon's point of view was more so that about his relationship with his ex-girlfriend. He was working at a coffee shop. He was living in New York or whatever. He was roommates with Tessa, and he noticed that his ex-girlfriend had came in, and they spoke to one another. Her friend spoke to him and everything. And so now his ex-girlfriend is now dating his co-worker, but he has his eye also on somebody else. But he was talking about that he really loved her and that he thought that they had a future together. Now we're going to go into Zed. So his was talking about Tessa, the bet and everything. He talked about how he wanted to end it early. He talks about like how he actually cared for Tessa, but not in the way that Hardin did. Hardin and Tessa belong together. And this is another thing that they keep on trying to do throughout this freaking series and push, that they belong together, that Hardin and Tessa belong together, that they are soulmates. And I'm so tired of everybody just like praising this relationship. But he said that Hardin loved her in a way that he couldn't, and that they belong together. It's obvious that they're soulmates. He's seen pictures of them and their family like on Facebook, and everything seems to be good or whatever. But he doesn't want to keep talking about Tessa and Hardin. He just wants to move on, because basically Hardin just erased all of them from his life. Okay. So anyways, the crew was all together and they were all at a party, and Zed ended up meeting this girl who ended up losing her friends. He was talking to her. He invited her over to go hang out with his crew. And so the conversation at the time was about Tessa and Hardin. And so they were like, oh, like, who's this girl? And so she introduced herself, and they was like, how about a game of truth or dare? And then Zed is like, no. And so then more conversation about like Tessa and stuff came up again. And this girl is obviously like, something is up. Like, let me go. So she got up and she started walking away. And Zed is like, y'all, cut it out. And then he went over to that girl to try to talk to her. Obviously, they're going to start dating. Predictable. But yeah, he just was over hearing about Tessa and Hardin. So yeah, now it's the rest of the character descriptions. I didn't read that. Don't care to read it, you know, whatever, because I was so over it. But that is pretty much the end of the book. It was really pointless. It just summarized everything that we already know. It was still trying to paint their relationship as being a relationship goes, and it's not as bad as Tessa made it seem. Like, it was like Tessa was over dramatic and Hardin wasn't. Like, maybe that's just how Hardin realized it. And I feel like this book was supposed to have been Hardin's book. But yeah, a lot of stuff was eliminated in this book for a reason. Like, y'all. So basically, yeah, the book was just a summary of book 1 through 4. No purpose of it whatsoever. So I read this book so you guys don't have to. Let me know your thoughts and comments on this book. Yeah, so let me know what else you guys want me to read and review for you in the comments below. And I'll talk to you guys in the next book review. Bye.